I'll start this recording. Good morning and welcome to 2022, the WREA Wisconsin Wednesday conversation today. We are so glad to see you. I know it's cold and wintry up there. It is not where I am in Houston, but thank you all for joining us today. We've got the full crew here. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors. We'll get started here just in a second. We've got a few more folks signing on here. Just a couple of housekeeping details. If you haven't joined us before, all participants are in a listen-only mode. And what that means is if you want to communicate, you can hit up the chat feature. You can use the Q&A feature to ask questions, to chat and comment back and forth. My co-host, MJ Woodall, will answer those questions, and we'll stop periodically if there's something that pertains to the whole group, and we'll talk about that conversation as well. You'll also notice down there at the bottom a QR code. We're going to have that QR code at the end of the conversation today as well. It's an opportunity to ask specific questions and seek more information about some of the topics we've talked about or some of the benefits that WREA offers to their members as well. So we've got a full agenda today. We're going to start the year off right, kind of talking about just some healthy tips, some ways to get your financial house in order, some changes and things like that that are going to take place or that took place January 1st, and we're going to talk about those as well. So grab a pen and paper today, and let's get started. And before we get started and jumping in here, I do want to bring on Diane, your executive director. Kind of tell us how the holidays were for you, Diane, and what your plans are going forward for the year.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, John. I also want to wish everyone a happy new year. Hopefully this year will be much better than the last one that we had, or the last couple we had. And I know everybody's looking forward to this COVID being done, but we're not yet through it yet, but we'll hopefully get there soon. A couple of things that WREA is going to be doing this year. One of the big ones we're doing is we're starting to develop a new strategic plan. It's been a long time since we've had one, and it's time that we redo that. So we're going to be starting this month. And as we go through this, we are going to ask members for their input on specific topics and questions and issues. And so if you get an email or a survey, we certainly hope that you'll fill it out. Give us that feedback because we do want to hear from you. Also, on the website, under the events page, please check it out for all of the activities that you can participate in and be engaged with WREA, from these webinars to our book study, to all sorts of trainings that we're doing. So check that out. You can register directly from that on the web page and offer your ideas, hear about what we're doing, and just kind of stay up to speed in your learning in the new year. So with that, thank you for being here, and I'm going to turn it back to John.
Thank you, Diane. I appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing what the results are of the strategic planning. So again, be on the lookout for emails, communications, opportunities to give your input. And it's a great time to do that, especially as the legislative year kicks off and the new fresh year here. Again, my name is John Green. I am in charge of field development with Association Member Benefits Advisors, or AMBA. I live a little bit north of Houston with my wife, who is a second grade teacher. She teaches at the same school that she and my three kids all went to school. And so she's been teaching for many, many years. And we follow the Baylor Bears everywhere. Just got back from New Orleans from a big Sugar Bowl win. So we had a great time doing that. But I spent most of my career in schools helping teachers understand what retirement looks like on the other side. And so I'm excited about this opportunity to share with you a little bit about some of the things we've learned, some of the things that we make this educational Wisconsin Wednesday important for you. So thank you for joining us as well. I want to introduce my co-partner, my co-host for today, who is our leader up in Wisconsin, MJ Woodall. MJ, why don't you introduce yourself and kind of share with you a little bit about you?
Good morning, everyone. MJ Woodall, as John had mentioned, and I'm the district manager that oversees the benefits that are available to you through your association. And we really help to not only grow your memberships locally and statewide, but also work with individuals on what those benefit programs are so that they know what those things are that they have available to them. We can help make sure that we're filling any of those gaps that might be out there. A little bit about me. This is a picture of my husband and I. Recently, we had gone to an honor flight gala. It was the inaugural gala. And so we were able to be part of it. A really good friend of mine is heavily involved in the honor flight and making sure that our veterans actually get, just the experience that of a lifetime for them to be able to go back and, go see the wall and come back and have the mail call and everything else. So we were able to be part of that. So this is just a picture of my husband and I. We've been together for 28 years. Some of you have met my oldest son, Chris. He actually works alongside me, as well as a bunch of other reps that we have throughout the state. I have a younger son, John. I have a puppy, which I will not say his name because he'll come flying in here. He did get his own little couch in my office. Oh, wait, he is in here. If I point down, can you see his own little couch back there? That's his own little couch. So he's a little spoiled maybe, but anyways, he's actually right below me. So I won't say his name because we might hear him otherwise, but I am here to help you and help our retirees really ensure that they're set and protected. So thank you so much, John. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, MJ. Appreciate it. Appreciate the work that you do there with the honor flight as well. So just a quick reminder, when you think about what WREA does, and Diane mentioned about the strategic planning coming up and what WREA wants to do in the future, they're there to protect your pension, to be a watchdog over those legislative changes that sometimes legislators want to do with pensions and cost of living increases and all the benefits and things like that. They're also designed to help preserve those benefits that you receive, keep you connected to your local community. And if anything's taught us over the past 2 years, being able to stay connected to like-minded members is so important, especially when you can't see them face to face sometimes. And then to find people like AMBA that can offer you exclusive benefits, discounts, and fun stuff and things like that as well, that can really help take care of you and make those retirement years even more fulfilling for you. So that's what WREA does. Again, pay attention to what Diane and Annalise and Lori send to you in regards to that strategic planning. If we need to expand what we're doing to bring in more members, to support you more, give input on that. And that's important for us as well. So just a couple of quick things, reminders. There's some advantages of having WREA and AMBA together. It can kind of help fill those gaps that aren't covered by what you left at the schoolhouse or from the state. If you leave the state, and I know many members of WREA head south for the winter, Florida, Arizona, Texas, that type of thing. These benefits are portable. So you can, whatever reason you leave the state, you can take them anywhere. You can extend these benefits to your family members. Many of our members talk about how they appreciate being able to extend them to their own adult children or to their parents that may not have had access to certain benefits as well. So that's an important part of your WREA membership today. Today's conversation, we're going to focus on a little less information about particular issues and focus more on some of the changes that took place at the turn of the calendar year. We're going to kind of identify some of those gaps that are still out there as a result of some of these changes. And then I kind of want to give you more of a checklist or some things that you can do to act on immediately to kind of put your financial house in order. And the reason I do this is because of these two ladies right here. These are two of the three most important ladies in my life, my daughter and my mother. My wife took the picture, so I can't say that she's in there, but those are the three most important women in my life. My mom turns 81 in May this year. This was at Christmas this past year. And my father, those of you who've been on these calls, my father passed away in October of 2020. And since that time, I've noticed a little bit of my mom repeating herself, being more confused, worrying about different things. And so when I was putting this conversation together for today, these are the two people I have in mind. So whether it's you're closer to my mother's age or you're right in the middle to where you've got an elderly parent and you've got children of your own that are their grandkids, I want this conversation to be directed towards you and thinking about either yourself or your parents, because some of the things that I'm going to ask you to do today can really make your life simple. And it's a challenge back to me. I don't make New Year's resolutions very frequently because by this time I've already stopped them. But this is really my challenge to me to help get my mother's financial house in order, to make sure that if something happens to her, that my wife and I, my brother and his wife don't have to worry about it. And especially her grandkids don't have to worry about anything like that. So we're going to talk about some of those things as we go here today. And these are just a couple of headlines that I pulled out of here. that really kind of spurred me on as I was preparing for this is making sure that we don't wait until it's too late to have that conversation with our parents, or you to have that conversation with your children. And then as I was sitting there and talking with my mom, especially after my dad passed away, her concern was, will I have enough money throughout the rest of my life? She doesn't have any debt. She's very blessed, no debt, anything like that at all. But just making sure that she doesn't have those concerns about any future medical bills, long-term care issues because of what my father went through, that type of thing. And so that's been my challenge to me. And I challenge those of you on the call today, make sure that you take care of those issues from your peace of mind or from your parents' peace of mind going forward. So let's talk about some new laws. Let's talk about new laws, new changes to Social Security, Medicare, all that kind of stuff like that. This is an interesting new law that popped up this year. It was started back in 2020 as part of the COVID-19 bill, and it deals with surprise medical bills, what's called balanced billing. And for those of you who have experienced a medical bill in the past 10 years, where maybe you have perceived that you went to an in-network hospital or something that was with Medicare, but you got this bill that you weren't expecting outside of that because maybe a specialist, a radiologist, or somebody who read the MRIs were not part of your network. Well, this bill tries to address that. And what it says is that out-of-network providers have to give you 72 hours notice prior to any procedure. So that if you go to your doctor who's in your Medicare network, or your doctor who accepts Medicare, and they're getting ready to do a procedure, if there's any out-of-network provider or that doesn't take Medicare, which there are several of those that don't, they've got to give 72 hours notice of that procedure. That would allow you as a consumer to say, I want somebody that's in network or that takes Medicare, or you can know what the bill is going to be. This doesn't impact anything in regards to deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance clauses, whatever Medicare doesn't cover, all that kind of stuff like that. And it requires the provider, the doctor, and the insurance carrier to take those disputes to a third party. Now we're 5 days into this year. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. I'm not sure that a lot of doctors, third-party providers understand this, how it's going to work. Just know that it is going to be some bumps in the road, but it may be something that is good for you from the standpoint of you're not hit with this huge bill afterwards that you didn't know was coming. You'll know beforehand, unfortunately. It impacts air ambulance providers. We're not sure how that works yet, but it does not impact ground ambulance providers. So again, if you've been on some of our calls before, you know that there are some issues in Wisconsin related to ambulance services and the cost that they bill outside of networks and beyond Medicare, things like that. So again, it doesn't cover that. So just be aware of that, but that's a new law that just took place this year. Let's talk about Social Security, because everybody got all excited about Social Security giving the largest increase in 18 plus years. So you've got a 6% or 5.9% cost of living increase that's going to take place this year. The average increase is about $92 a month for an individual, maximum about $197 a month. That's great. We all know that inflation is driving prices up, and that's really what cost of living increases are tied to on the Social Security side. The Medicare Part B payments are jumping up as well, about $21, a little over $21 a month. So that's a pretty good sized jump as well. And I got to looking back there and say, all right, we've had a cost of living increase. We have Medicare Part B increases that go back and forth. And in the past 9 years, 8 or 9 years, cost of living increases have gone up 18% for Social Security, but Medicare Part B premiums have almost gone up over 50%. So you can see that those numbers are going up. At the same time, the federal government is making cuts into Medicare. And we'll talk about the donut hole or the prescription drug plan as well, because there are some changes there. Now, MJ and I are going to come back here later this month, or I think it's this month, or maybe next month. No, on the 19th, and we're going to talk about Medicare. So we're going to talk about all this more in depth. I just want to give you some highlights in here. For those of you who have a Part D prescription drug coverage plan, the deductible went up $35, and then the donut hole increased by $300. So we're going to talk about that some more in depth when we talk about that on the 19th. So just know that there are some changes out there that have taken place in your monies that are coming in from Social Security, And then also from the cost of Medicare and the donut hole coverage as well. At the same time that your costs are going up from Medicare, the federal government is cutting back in Medicare. So these are not tied to any one administration, so you can't blame one or the other. They've been in place for years, and they've been scaling these back. And these are cuts to services, cuts to reimbursement rates. And when I say that from a services standpoint, what they will do is they will take procedures that used to be classified as inpatient procedures and move them to outpatient or observation status procedures. And what that does is it may not change how many days you stay in the hospital. It just changes the type of recovery care that you receive or eligible for after the event. Just a real sly way to do this, but it really changes your expectations. And MJ and I will talk about some of those things again on that Medicare conversation and some of our other conversations throughout the year. And these are on top of any type of deductible changes, premium changes, co-insurance clauses, things like that that are out there. One of the ways that I saw most recently that it really hits hard is the reimbursement rates for doctors. Okay. So Medicare can say, we're going to cut something by X%, the reimbursement rate. And let's just kind of play this scenario out in regards to the way that it handles for a cancer patient receiving some type of treatment. So you've got an individual here, say it's Grace, and she's had cancer many years ago, but she received some type of infusion therapy to boost her immune system, to keep her, from having cancer recur, things like that. She receives this therapy from her physician directly. She may not be close to a hospital. She may be out in a more rural community in Wisconsin. So she receives that therapy from that physician's clinic. Medicare decides that they're going to reduce the reimbursement rate for the particular medication she receives by 2%. Well, the doctor can't get that medicine for any cheaper. So what they sometimes will choose to decide is they're not going to participate in Medicare anymore. So Grace has to decide, do I pay more to go to the same type of quality care I was receiving, or do I have to change to go to a Medicare facility that takes Medicare? So it could be further away. It could not be the quality of care or comfort where she's used to going for 8 years, that type of thing. That's how Medicare is making some changes that can greatly impact you. It doesn't look like a big thing on the surface, 2%, no big deal, but that can change who participates. And that's a big change this year. So you'll see some, unfortunately, more of that could impact you at a different level as well. Now, most of you understand, and we'll talk about this more on the 19th, Medicare rates are indexed to your income for certain individuals. So if you had a life-changing event in 2021, got married or divorced, had a spouse that passed away, you fully stopped working. If you were retired and receiving your pension, but you were working an additional job and you stopped working, reduced your hours, something like that, your income has gone down. Medicare doesn't know that. Medicare will still continue to charge you a higher rate based on what they think you have income. So it's important to file the SSA 44, Medicare Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, because that can help lower your Medicare premiums out there. If you had a house, say a house that's a rental house or an Airbnb, and you had a disaster that wiped that house and you're no longer receiving income off of that, or if you had a spouse that passed away and you're not receiving their pension anymore, those type of things can make a difference that can drive your premiums down from a Medicare related situation. So look up SSA 44, Medicare Income Related Monthly Adjusted Amount, and that can help you pay less going into this year. All right. I highly encourage you every year, look at your plans. We've got people on this call who are on Medicare. We've got people on this call who are not yet Medicare eligible. And therefore they've got some type of private insurance through their school, through their spouse's employment, something like that. Just as we kind of covered some of the Medicare changes, always be sure you understand what your copays are, what your deductibles are, what your co-insurance clause is, which means how much money you're going to have to pay out of your pocket whenever a procedure is done, and what your out-of-pocket maximums are. And MJ talked about this in one of our Medicare webinars. If you go with the Medicare Advantage plan, Sometimes that premium up front looks really cool, or the lack of premium looks really cool. But when you look at the co-insurance or the out-of-pocket maximums, it can be extremely costly depending upon the type of coverage that you have and the type of procedures that you need to have or type of care. So I encourage you always to know your plans. If you've got questions about your plans, whether it's Medicare, whether it's an Advantage plan, whether it's a supplement, whether it's your own school plan, spouse plan, whatever it is, I'm going to encourage you at the end, ask MJ to do a benefit review. That way she can sit down and identify for you what those things are, help you understand how that could impact you, and kind of do some scenario role plays that way. I always encourage, I started my career out in human resources back in the late 80s, and we would talk about how to be a better healthcare consumer, ways to make sure that what your medical plans cover help stretch your dollars more, maybe prevent you from having to go to the hospital, things like that. And we talked about understanding your coverage. That's first and foremost, understanding what you have, knowing what's out there. Take advantage of the perks and incentives. You hear things like silver sneakers or free workout facilities, things like that. Take advantage of those things. If nothing, some of these plans have apps that you can download on your phone that track your steps or track your water intake, stuff like that. Take advantage of those things. Oftentimes they will give you free goodies if you'll keep up a walking regimen or something like that. Take advantage of those type of things. When you're going to the doctor, and we talked about a little bit with that surprise billing law that just went into place, ask about pricing transparency. And I'll give you a little bit of a story. Back probably early November, we had our first, and I'm going to put in air quotes, cold front blow through South Texas. That's when it went from 80 degrees to 60 degrees. And so our first cold front always drives in sinus infections in our household. And we know it's sinus infections. We know it's what we need. We need antibiotics. And if we can get a steroid shot, we're all good to go. Well, in times of COVID now, the doctor won't see you unless you have a COVID test. And then they do a video, teledoc deal. Well, my wife was just trying to get the meds. She just wanted to get her drugs, basically. And so she does the teledoc, and the teledoc says, yeah, we probably won't see you unless you get your test and all that. We get a bill for $200 for us to tell us we're not even going to see you, So we should have asked, what is the price of the teledoc? What is the price of this type of thing? So very frustrating. So I encourage you, shop around, ask for pricing transparency. She went to the school clinic because she's not a member of the school health plan. She only had to pay like $35 to go see the school clinic via teledoc. She got the drugs, all that kind of stuff. Shop around. I cannot encourage you enough. Shop around for those things. Ask for price transparency, but don't skip that preventative care. Take advantage of what your plans have for your checkups, those type of things, for your screenings. My mom is excellent about this. She's always on me. I've got to have this done. Take me to the doctor, that type of thing. She's healthy as a horse, but I encourage you, please do that. Don't skip those preventative care things. Those are 5 quick ways to make you a better healthcare consumer so that you don't pay money out of your pocket you weren't expecting, and maybe you can prevent some of those things that are concerns to you out there. So when we look out there, when MJ and I look at the Medicare changes, some of the things that are out there with regular plans, if you're less than 65 years old and not eligible for Medicare, we see 4 big gaps. These are major gaps that we see out there. First and foremost, there's not any type of home health care or facility care coverage in any type of plan that we see out there. There's some limited coverage in Medicare for certain things, but most of the time it's very specific and it's very limited. The coverage for if you have a cancer diagnosis, heart attack, or a stroke, the coverages are usually pretty good for the treatment of it, but there's about 60% coverage or 60% of the expenses that aren't there for transportation, recovery, comfort items, things like that that are out there. We've talked about medical transport. Usually if you have to be transported to a hospital for whatever reason, an ambulance or an air ambulance, there's very limited coverage in those plans, very capped rates. We're responsible for the amount over that. There's an expense out there, and there's not any type of life insurance plan, any type of final expense coverage in medical care if you're under 65 or in Medicare overall. So there are some gaps that we've seen out there. I highly encourage you to understand what those gaps are, and MJ and her team can help you understand that as well. So, all right, that's kind of the changes to Medicare, government plans, private healthcare plans as well. Let's talk the financial side of the house now. Let's talk about some things that you can do to be financially healthy in 2022. And so we're going to talk about 4 key areas in spending, planning and organizing, insurance. And I'm not talking necessarily insurance like health insurance. We'll talk about some things like that as well. And then how you can protect that nest egg and make sure that you've got the money that you've worked hard and saved for that will be there if you need it. All right, let's talk about the 3 big budget items out there. You know, we can go in and talk about how we're going to clip a coupon here, something like that. And we're going to save 35 cents off because food prices are going up, things like that. The 3 big items that we spend probably close to 40% of our income on are housing, transportation, and food. And for an average person or average household income, that's about $37,000 a year. And so that's a pretty good chunk of change. Whether you've paid your house off or not, there's still property taxes, insurance upkeep, things like that. So there's 3 big budget items. And we'll talk about just some things that as I was doing research out there that are trending for people who want to save in these areas. And these are kind of new buzzwords and terms just to kind of give you a heads up on what those are. Everybody knows about downsizing. If you flip on any DIY network, they'll talk about tiny homes or RV living, that kind of stuff like that. It may not be a lifestyle for you, but you've got to look around. I look at my mom. She's lived in the same house since I've been in 2nd grade, so 40 plus years. And it's a great house for her. It's got stairs though. I don't know if I want her navigating stairs forever. And so we've got to think about, is it time to maybe look for something a little bit smaller, 1 story, that kind of thing, but without keeping her feeling like she's cooped up, you know, that she feels like she's got room that way. So downsizing is a significant way, especially with house prices right now, that you can find some equity in your home and possibly do that. You're going to hear the term house hacking. I'd never heard this before, this term house hacking. You hear about hacks all the time, that it's just a trick, a way to get something better. House hacking, from what I understand, is a way to take that extra room in your house and possibly pick up a roommate, pick up someone that can turn it into an income generation. Could be a family member, could be a friend from church, so a coworker that you worked with, just another way to possibly save money and to decrease your costs there. And of course, we talk about DIY repairs, some ways that you can do that as well. When it comes to vehicles, as we know, car prices are astronomical right now if you can find a new car because of all the chips and things like that. What we find though is right now, many retirees have extra vehicles that they're not using. That costs you more in insurance, but now is the highest that there's ever been in terms of prices for used cars. So if you've got a used car that you're not using, then I would encourage you to consider selling that car. It's a good way to make income because you may make more than what you paid for the car if you've got less need out there. Then when it comes to food, I'm going to encourage you, use our Passport program. The Passport discount program has 2 great ways to make sure that you can save money. There's dining programs out there that you can save up to 60%. There's the meal prep programs that you can order, those box programs that you can order and save a significant amount of money on Passport programs, on those box programs that can deliver meals right to you right away to your mailbox as well. And then I had this one question for you. Are you still helping out adult children? Are you still spending your money taking care of adult children and their needs? I'm not going to have any commentary on that one way or the other. That's just a significant way that you can maybe save money in your household in that area as well. So a couple of insurance checkpoint reminders, and I'm talking more about your home and your auto and your life insurance. I just did this yesterday, as a matter of fact. Go back and look at it in terms of your auto insurance. Look at your deductibles that you have. If you've got a low deductible on a used car, or, you know, an older car, you're paying quite a bit of money in insurance premiums just to save $250 or $500. Consider raising your deductibles on an older car because it's more expensive to repair. You may find that your insurance rates drop. Look at your liability coverage. Make sure that you've got the proper amount, but make sure you don't have too much. For give you an example, We are experiencing an empty nest in my household. It is phenomenal. We had a higher liability insurance coverage because when the kids were teenage drivers and they hit somebody, we didn't want to get sued and be responsible for something if they did that. Now that 2 of the 3 are out on their own, they're responsible for their own. We've looked at lowering our liability coverage down a little bit because we may not need as much because of how we travel, that type of thing. When it comes to travel, if you're not driving as much as you used to, many carriers have mileage use ratings. So if you're driving less than 5,000 miles a year, you can get a greatly reduced rate based on that. You need to let them know how much you're driving. Consider, I'm not a huge fan of these, but that may benefit you. Some of the bigger companies have these phone apps that you can use that will track your usage and how fast you drive and how quick you stop, things like that, and give you safe driving discounts based on that. It's a pretty good way to save that. Look for affinity discounts. You may not be an active educator now, but there are companies that offer discounts for retired educators. There are companies that offer discounts for over a certain age. So take advantage of that. You can find some of those through the passport application that we've talked about and see those out there as well. Specialty coverage. And this is coverage that you might have needed at one time, but you don't need anymore. Give you an example. Sometimes there are companies that will offer pet insurance through your car insurance. You may no longer have your pet. There's no need to have that coverage, drop that off there. Specialty coverage could be for towing or rental reimbursement. Well, if you already have a AAA membership, you may have duplicate coverage. It may not need to spend that money in that regard. So shop around. I haven't shopped around in probably 8 years. I called my agent yesterday as I was putting the final touches on this presentation, asked them to shop around just to see what's out there. If you've been a good driver with a company for a long period of time, chances are that some of the other companies really want you and they're willing to give you a sizable new discount to become a new policyholder with them. Now let's talk about home insurance. Home insurance is a little bit more tricky, especially because of where you live, depending upon the exposures that you have up there. I live a little bit close to the coast, about 70 miles from a hurricane area. So I want to make sure that I've got proper coverage for that. But you want to look at replacement value on your home. This is so important because home prices have gone up so dramatically in the past 2 years that usually they've exceeded the replacement cost of your home. And what I mean by replacement cost, this is not your taxable amount that's on your home. This is not what you could sell your home for, and it's not what you built your home for. It's what it would cost if your house was totally lost in a disaster, that they would have to come in and clean up the property, make it ready to rebuild again. That's your replacement cost. Some companies will automatically put on an inflation cost increase every year. Others will do it infrequently. Take a look at your policy and take a look at that, because sometimes it will get out of whack, meaning that they would have gone up too much and it really is overvaluing your home for its replacement cost. Look at your deductibles as well. This is the amount of money that you have to pay out of your pocket before repair can be taken care of. So sometimes you can increase your deductible, lower your premiums there, make sure that you've got the proper deductibles that you need there. Same for liability coverage. Liability coverage is so cheap on a homeowner's policy, it may not make sense to change that. If you've done major renovations, replacing AC or heating units, wiring, some plumbing, things like that, or a roof, let your insurance agent know. You can get sizable discounts off of that if you've done that. Look for bundle opportunities, meaning putting your home and auto together. Those type of things can save you some money that way. And again, shop around as well. In the arena of life insurance, MJ and I are strong believers in life insurance. I've seen families that have passed away and have their generations changed because they had it. And then I've seen too many GoFundMe accounts by people who didn't have life insurance. Please make sure that you've got some. Make sure that you have what you need. Sometimes you may have had a lot more whenever your kids were younger. They're out of the house. You don't need as much. You may need a smaller policy. Check and see what you have in relationship to term insurance versus permanent insurance. So many of us got term insurance because it was cheaper when we were younger. We could get it for 20 years or 30 years. Now we're getting close to the end of our term and the price is going to go up dramatically. it may be time to relook at that, see what's out there. Also, check your policy. Sometimes they have nursing home riders on there. They have other benefits that come with that policy. And you may see some premiums starting to increase if you had a permanent policy that says, hey, you need to put more money into this policy to keep it afloat, that type of thing. You do have options out there. Make sure you understand what those options are. And then finally decide what you're going to do with your life insurance. If it's just to pay off some bills and to pay for final expenses, or if you're leaving a legacy, what you want to do with that. And so again, MJ can take care of that and help you understand what you have and what your options are through WREA as well. All right. This is the heart of what I want to talk about. And this goes back to my mother, like I talked about with her earlier. I want to talk about what's called an ICOD folder. And in case of death, or for us down here in the hurricane area, it's in case of disaster as well. We have a plastic folder by the phone in our kitchen that has copies of all of our documents that if we have to evacuate for whatever reason, we can grab that folder and go. So we'll do a quick poll here real quick. And want to take your poll and ask you, I'm going to launch another poll. I'm going to ask this of the group here. Do you have an ICOD folder? And in case of death or disaster folder? So simply answer yes or no. You can drop that in there. It's anonymous. We'll just keep this open for about 10 seconds more. All right, we've got a couple that are in there that are that way. All right, we will end this poll and we will share the results. So you see there, about 3/4 of us don't have one. And that's understandable and that's okay. And so I want to, today, what I want to do is talk about the components of a good ICOD folder. And at the end of the conversation today, if you want these components, we're recording this webinar. We'll get it to Diane and Annalise and Lori and get them to post it out there as well on the WREA website. We'll also send you a link to some planning documents, things like that, that you can use and to make sure that you've got that. So I'm going to give you, no need to write these down because there's a ton of different functions in there. It's kind of going to give you some highlights of about 6 or 7 things to put in your ICOD folder. All right. We break ours down into several different categories. So think about life events. And now, this is the conversation that I'm going to have with my mom, talking about putting together all of her documents that in case something happens to her, my brother or I know where to go to start any process. Now, I'm not talking about death. I'm talking about could be incapacitation, could be anything else in that regards. Even her house flooded in Hurricane Harvey, that we were able to start the process because we had those documents that way. Okay. So your life events, your birth certificates, your licenses, your divorce decrees, any type of adoption paperwork, things like that, having copies of those in that document. Any type of life insurance and retirement paperwork, especially with your beneficiaries. And please, please, please check your beneficiaries on your life insurance policies. This is your annual reminder to do that. Too many times have MJ and I gone to a death claim situation where an ex-spouse has been on there, or 2 of 3 children have been on the beneficiaries, and you talk about causing a mess whenever it comes to life insurance proceeds. So please, please, please check your beneficiaries. If you are still working, or you've had someone of your spouse members that passed away while they were still working in service, there are certain documents that you want to keep there. Keep all your pension information, any type of annuity paperwork, and any type of state pension entitlement details that you have. Some of you, whenever you elected to take your pension, you may have elected an option that said, if I precede my spouse in death, they can receive these benefits as well for as long as they're alive. Make sure you have all of those documents in there. Then you're going to want to put all of your banking information, your account numbers, especially now in the age of online banking, your passwords, login information, credit cards, safety deposit box, especially any keys, any things like that. My wife's grandfather passed away several years ago and simply left a box of keys. He did not trust banks, but he trusts the safety deposit box. So my father-in-law went to about 6 different banks, had no clue what he was going to find in there. He was blown away what he found. Please kind of put down what you've got in these safety deposit boxes, because you don't know what's out there. Those safety deposit boxes, from what I understand, are not FDIC insured. So just know that. But please make sure that it'll help your beneficiaries and help your children do that as well. As far as your assets, make sure you've got your deeds, any timeshare ownerships, any type of IRAs, your old 403Bs, 401Ks, including passwords, bonds of all types. If you have any old US savings bonds, stuff like that. If you're a member of any family business, corporate ownership, anything of that nature, put that in there. If you've ever made any type of loans, put those in there, that type of thing. On the flip side, your liabilities. If you still have a mortgage, put that in there. If you've got a reverse mortgage, definitely put that information in there as well. Home equity loans, things like that, any type of cars, personal loans, put all those liabilities in there. And then kind of your monthly expenses, not so much that you're worried about that those things have to carry on, but who do they need to call to stop these things? Who do they need to call to make sure that these things cease being taken out of bank accounts, things like that? Those are some things you need to put in your ICOD folder. And then finally, as much as social media is out there, as much as you may be on Facebook, my mother is on Facebook all the time. What's her password? How can I get her logged off? That kind of stuff like that. Same with email accounts, cell phone, streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus and all that kind of stuff. How can I get into her computer? Then I want to know who her doctors are. I want to know who her AMBER representative is, who MJ is, who her lawyer is. We go to the same church and know how to take care of that. Any type of accountant, insurance broker, anything like that, put those contact details in there. It will make your life so much easier there. And then the essential documents. And I can't stress this enough. This was probably the best $500 that we spent 8 years ago or so, is to help my mom put together a will and a power of attorney that allows, we already talked through what she wants, and as far as her medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, all of her wishes, things like that, instruction letters, all those things, as well as a copy of where she bought a plot back near her hometown, that type of thing. Any of those things, put those in there as well. So those are the 9 main categories. And again, we'll send you a document on this kind of stuff to walk through to build a robust ICOD folder. It's not something that you look forward to. It's not something that's a great conversation, although we have had super conversations because it helped me understand what my mom wanted to do in the event of her passing. And so those conversations really get kind of neat as well. But, just helps you consolidate. It'll give you peace of mind knowing that your wishes are taken care of, and will give your kids more peace of mind as well, knowing where everything is in one place and how to start that process. And really where it will help as well, my brother and I live both within 10 miles of my mom. Many of you may have kids that are scattered all over the country, but one of you is responsible for mom, or one of your children is responsible for you. It will really help in that communication back to those siblings across the country. This is what we wanted done. This is what's legally documented in there, because you know that somebody's going to pop up and going to say, well, mom promised me this, or something happened. Well, here's where it is. Here's all the documentation right there. So really you can protect that legacy that you want to leave by taking care of it up front as well. So it goes back to that conversation we talked about, my mom and my daughter. These are some questions that I want you to start asking now. Now you can ask these of your parents. You can ask these of yourself, write these down, have your kids ask you these questions. These are things like, where do you keep those financial planning or estate planning documents like we talked about? Build that ICOD folder. Can I meet with your advisor? If you have some type of financial advisor, you want your children to meet with them. You don't want that to happen after you're gone, to make sure that they understand what your thought process was there. Who are your doctors? Who are your medical professionals? I know generally who my mom's doctors are. I don't know everything about that. What meds are you taking? Where's your pharmacy? For some reason, my mom only wants to go to one pharmacy. I don't understand why. She wants to go there. Why is that? What kind of planning have you done for your long-term care? If you need bathing, dressing help, going to the bathroom, who do you want to take care of you? How do you want that done? Do you want to stay at home? Do you want to move in with me? You know, that you have to fight my wife on that kind of thing. Do you want to move in with my brother? That kind of thing. So, I mean, do you want to go to retirement community? Those conversations now, not when it has to be done, but now make a world of difference. And then what are your wishes for end of life care, funeral plans and expenses, things like that? So, and then this, we talked about that medical power of attorney. If you face a medical crisis, what kind of treatment do you want? Talking through those things now are not as uncomfortable as you think, and it can make a world of difference with your family, with your children, your grandchildren, maybe your brothers and sisters, with your parents as you go through there now. This is a phenomenal document that I found, done by the University of Minnesota and ARP. It talks about how to have that conversation with your parent or with your kids, and how to set up a trusted financial advocate within your family, with outside your family, whatever it is. And it gives you a step-by-step roadmap. If you want one of these, at the end of this conversation today, I'll show you how to contact me. I will send you this link to make sure that you get a copy of this, because it's really neat. We'll get it in the hands of MJ as well. It's a multi-page document. You can fill it out online, or you can print it and have it, put it in your iCloud folder. It's just a great conversation starter, how to keep that conversation on track, and helps you identify maybe where some of the things that you're missing, things that you don't have in regards to your long-term care, or what would happen if I had cancer, or what would happen if I needed to go into a hospice situation, those type of things. How would you handle that? It helps that discussion right now. So at the end, if you want this, we'll send you the links to this as well. And then finally, we talked about threats to your nest egg. So we've gone through spending, we've gone through insurance, we've gone through making sure that you've got your iCloud folder, your planning done, those type of things. There are 5 potential threats to your nest egg. And those are taking care of your elderly parents, either you being one or you taking care of them, death of a spouse without life insurance, those boomerang kids that come back, that move in, a medical crisis, or overexposure to the stock market as you age. We're going to hit on all of these later on in the year. I want to talk about overexposure to the stock market as you age, because this is something right now that if you followed the stock market in the last 10 years or so, you know that it's been a trajectory going up, up, up. But when you look at, we get all excited about that. And so when you think about maybe your old 403B or a spouse's 401k, the timing of when you retire is so crucial, because the people who retired back in 2008, 2009 had taken a 48% hit to their stock market portfolio at that time, or their 401k or their 403b. It took a long, long time to recover that money. And so making sure that you protect your money as you age is so important, so that you don't have to worry if the stock market goes down. You don't have to worry that how many years do I have to recover that, to get my nest egg back. And understanding what a nest egg is important as well. There have been a dozen bear markets since World War II. The last one we had was in October of 2007, going into 2008. You remember that? That was not fun. The housing crisis, all that kind of stuff like that. You may have been working in your prime years and didn't think about it because you kept pouring in money into your 403b. Here we are now, 14 plus years from that event, and we have not had a bear market since then. If I knew when we have the next bear market, you wouldn't see me on this screen. I'd be on an island somewhere, down in the Caribbean. I'm not a prognosticator. I just know that it's been a long time since we've had something. And we want to make sure that you've worked so hard all your career to protect this nest egg. We're not talking about your pension, because your pension will continue to stay at what it is. We're talking about that other money that you've taken and saved up, whether it's a 403b, a 401k, IRA, whatever it is, but it's in the stock market and you're enjoying the gains now. What happens if it drops? Do you have time to get that to recover? And if you think, well, I'll just put it over into a savings account. Well, you look at the savings accounts for CD rates and savings right now. I mean, you're losing money, unfortunately, because inflation is so stinking high. So I mean, you're not making any money on that side as well, to try to avoid the stock market. So, what are the options out there? There is a WREA endorsed wealth management solution that allows you to participate in the market gains without any type of downside risk. It's for qualified or non-qualified monies, a lot of different strategies. The thing I like about it, the main reason that I'm into it, it has some long-term care benefits inside of it as well. So for those of you who say, you know what, I don't know if I want to spend money on long-term care, but I want to have it just in case, this may be an option for you as well. But it also protects your money so that you can participate if the stock market goes up and enjoy that. But if the stock market drops, you don't lose a dime. So it's really a neat opportunity and solution out there because we've got a lot more years to prepare for living. If we retired at age 65, and I know we've got people on here of all different ages, chances are we're going to live to age 90. And there's an interesting stat, and it kind of sounds crazy, that once you reach 75, every year you live, you're going to live another year. I mean, it just, whatever math numbers work this way, that once you've reached a certain age, chances are you're going to continue to live even exponentially longer because of lifestyle and things like that. So inflation, spouse passing away, different health issues, we've got to plan for those as we go along here. And that's what WREA is on the lookout for you, as well as AMBA as well. So make sure that you're prepared for those years as we go through here. So that's the end of our conversation today. If you've got any questions, drop those in chat, put them in Q&A. We can ask about those as we go through here. Just a reminder, the calendar is out there. The best calendar in the entire country for retired educator associations is in Wisconsin. You can sign up for the basics of Medicare on the 19th. We've got our long-term care conversations in February. We're going to talk about all the cool discounts for spring break in March, and then how to protect your nest egg. We're going to go deeper into that, those 5 different components, and show you different ways that you can protect your nest egg, identify what your nest egg is, how to protect it, and how to make sure that you can rest peacefully knowing that you've got that nest egg protected out there. So feel free to drop that in there. Let's drop that in there in chat there. And, we can answer those questions as we go through here. Please, please, please tell your family, tell your former coworkers, if you know an active teacher right now, tell them about this education series. This is a way that you can introduce them to WREA, help them become a member, help them to be your advocate. At some point, Diane's going to rally the troops and say it's time for us to go to the Capitol and have legislative days. The more people we have up there, the better, the greater the opportunity to affect legislation, to protect pensions and COLAs and all that kind of stuff like that. This is the best entryway into WREA. So Jesse, what I'll do, Jesse asked, could you leave up the slide up of the 5 threats to your nest egg? I'll go back and do that in just a moment. Be glad to. I'll believe that is one of our last conversations. I'll put that up here at the end. So I do want to leave this way. If you've got any questions, please drop that into chat. You see the QR code down there. I'm going to encourage you, take your smartphone, open up your camera feature on your smartphone, just like we kind of had to do in restaurants back when COVID first started. Hover over that QR code, a little block will pop up and you'll hit that block and it will take you to a form and it will say, review my benefits. Tell me about these different things. Put your name and info in there. That'll come back to me within 5 minutes. MJ and her team will contact you to make sure you have every question that you want answered. If you don't have access to your smartphone, or if you're joining us on a tablet or something like that, my email address is down there as well. If you want those documents that we talked about, the roadmap to financial conversations with your parents or with yourself, send that to me. We'll make sure that MJ gets that in your hands right away, get you that link, help you understand what those things are out there as well that could be available to you to help do that ICOD folder. So, okay. Denise asked, will you be able to send more information on the WREA endorsed wealth management solution? Absolutely. If you'll do me a favor, Denise, if you'll use that QR code and in the other section down there, if you'll just simply hit wealth management, something like that, type in wealth management, we'll know exactly what you're talking about. So that's a great question, Denise. We'll take care of you in that regard. So I'm going to leave this up just for 2 more seconds. I'll come back to it in just a moment because I do want to take care of Jesse out here. Let me go back and quickly go find those 5 threats to your nest egg, because it's not fun to think about, but it's something we all need to prepare for. That's number 5. There we go. So we're talking about taking care of elderly parents. We're talking about death of a spouse without life insurance, the dreaded boomerang children, medical crisis, and overexposure to the stock market as we age. And these are things that I pulled out from USA Today, an article back 3 or 4 years ago, but they haven't changed much. Inflation is one that really is probably a threat as well, but these are some big threats in here. And for those of you who have been on these calls before, you know that my father was in a long-term care facility for 2 years with dementia. Had it not been for long-term care, the conversations with my stepmother and my brother and I would have been a whole lot different. And we're so blessed for that. But taking care of your elderly parents is a big one there. So Jesse, does that help? Does that give us enough time to cover those things there? So what I want to do is go back to the very end, and we will leave up my QR codes. MJ, you want to wrap us up with any questions, any thoughts before we finalize today's conversation?
I'll just make a real quick comment. First and foremost, a phenomenal presentation, John. And I definitely, we can definitely talk to help give you some more information on all of these different areas. So anybody that is interested, definitely look at that QR code, hover over that, like John had said, or go ahead and send him an email, and then we can talk and customize different things for yourselves. The biggest concern that's going on right now is, will you have enough money, right? And so while you've got a phenomenal pension program that you can't outlive, are you where you need to be within the market? Are you, do you have money that you might want to put off into a particular program or not to kind of help protect that? I have that program. I think I've shared with others, and where did I do this? Because I just was showing, I've got a recovery care program for myself, which gives us benefits if we need them, or myself benefits if I need them for care in a facility, care at home. But I also have this other program that actually helps from a wealth management perspective as another backup. So not only can I use that for income for myself, my family can use it if there's additional care that's needed outside of my recovery care, but I also can leave that money to my beneficiaries. So all 3 of those areas, in my opinion, are protected in that one product, which is phenomenal. So would love to chat and, share more information with you about that if you're interested.
Thank you, MJ. Appreciate that. Again, use that QR code to start that way. If you want to just get information, get those links to those financial roadmaps that AARP puts out, send it to my email address. MJ will take care of getting that to you as well. Diane, Annalise, and Lori, and MJ, I know it's cold up there. I'm not going to tell you that I have shorts on, but I do. And y'all stay warm. We look forward to talking to you on the 19th. And everyone have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.